Hi guys, this is Cindy with Easy C Productions. Welcome to my channel. I want to say thank you everyone for coming by last night and checking out the video I posted. And please, I cannot say this enough. If you know of some housing for the evacuated residents from Thorpe Road, please reach out and write comments below, or you can also email me. My email will be included in the video details. So today's clip is really short. It is February 6, 2018, and I'm going to include, you'll see some video footage from this afternoon of the ridge, and another clip from my geologist where he's reviewing the third-party geology report from last week. So stay tuned for the next coming days as well. I'm going to create my video on the interviews and the interview with the residents, okay? And it's going to be questions and answers and pretty much their story, everything that they shared with me in regards to their experience with this evacuation plans. Okay, so stay tuned for that report from my geologist, and thank you guys, and Cindy with Easy C Productions.
Good day, everyone. Thank you again for stopping by. We wanted to dive into this third-party report a little bit more, and perhaps get into our field observations a little bit. We're going to kind of probably jump around a little bit to just topics that I feel, you know, just kind of hit me at any particular moment. In this case, we're on page 14, the engineering approach to dissecting this particular landslide. And to go on, the slide mass is subject to two categories of forces, those tending to drive failure and those tending to resist failure. Seems simple enough, which we kind of alluded to. We use different terminology, normal stress versus shear stress. I don't see that drastic a difference here. And that kind of explains it down here in the notes section. And they explain that there. This is kind of the important part of all this. The shear resistance is the force available as the shear strength along the inner bed, which we know is the basal surface. The first important aspect of shear strength that is dependent on size and mineralogy of the particles along the slip surface. This is debatable because we don't know, and we are probably not ever going to see anything come out of the subsurface of this particular slide. There was recommendations in this particular report to gather samples at the toe of the slope. I don't know if anybody's going to do that, courageous enough to do it. We'll see, but there's been comments and questions to the effect of the possible clay mineralogy that might be there, and all the ones that are being considered do have a pretty high exchange capacity to accept cations from water, and the negatively charged surface of those particular clays, the area of that is more than willing to accept that exchange. What that exactly is, we don't know. Do we have all clay? We have partial clay. It's all questions to be asked going forward. Hopefully there will be data that forthcoming enlightening on that. And again, just to continue with that in general, the shear strength progressions: clay, silt, sand, gravel, and bedrock. Makes sense. They're just going through the progressions of different types that could be under there at the basal surface. But again, as you know, as I point out in my little notes here, in order to do that, we're going to have a sieve analysis of the actual soils at the basal surface, soil identification, the whole thing. Until I think we can really make some kind of tangible opinions about this particular, what the basal surface consists of, we're going to have to see. Anything at this point, I mean, we can guess forever. But hopefully, again, there'll be some data enlightening on that in the future, and we can kind of go from there. Again, just moving on, a second important aspect is that for almost all natural materials, the available shear strength is dependent on the magnitude of prior shear displacement, thereby exhibiting peak strength at small displacement, decreasing the residual strength at extended displacement. Makes sense. Meaning, and in the appendix of this particular report, you have this figure 11, I believe it is, and just a standard diagram of, there's no numbers to it because we don't know what peak strength was, but the authors are assuming that we have already, with the 12 feet of movement, as it says here, we have already surpassed peak strength, and we're now into residual strength, which is less. It's the lowest. We can't get any lower. We don't have any available shear strength left. But again, without any subsurface data, is the basal surface continuous? Is there potential self-arresting, a term that's been thrown around a lot? Is there rock intermixed? It's hard to say. And again, I think it's just there's a lot of guessing at this point. But anywho, trying to move on. Yeah, a lot of ifs here. In this particular, just in this much, we have a lot of ifs. But just to continue, the progressive loss of shear strength is referred to as strain softening. Makes sense. The 12 feet of displacement for Rattlesnake and probable ancestral tectonic deformation during folding mean that the current shear strength along the slip surface is at its residual or lowest value, which we just explained. And it just goes on to, just further explain the ratio between the weight component and the shear component, how it determines the behavior of the slide. Couldn't agree more. But as it continues here, when the force of the weight exceeds the force of the resistance, there is a net unbalanced force acting on the slide, and it exhibits acceleration, which it is doing, albeit slow, but acceleration nevertheless. Recent displacement monitoring indicates that the slide has transitioned from acceleration phase to one at constant velocity, which is pretty much at least what's being reported, and that is certainly what I think I'm seeing in the field. And just to continue suggestion that the resisting and driving forces are approaching parity, a little balance. Just getting back to figure 11 real quick. Yeah, that's kind of what this diagram is indicating. But as we can also see, we're not down here somewhere to, weight versus shear resistance. We're not looking down here. We're only one away from acceleration to rapid failure. So all the variables that I've just explained are very much in play as we go forward. I mean, we'll see. But again, there's just a lot of ifs, and it just goes on to explain how that could happen. Future changes in movement rate require change in the net unbalanced force acting on the slide mass. Makes sense. This could develop through either increased driving force, example given, lateral scarp failure, probably on the east side is what they're referring to, seismic loading, or through decreased resisting forces. The passive toe block that we have demonstrated on the southwest corner, where we have seen the stress building, that's one. And of course, rock mass disaggregation, basically rock falling apart, which again, that is also given on the figure 11 here. But that will also, if this just comes off bit by bit as they're depicting here, that's going to lower the weight, decrease the velocity of the slide. Let's see, yes, just is to kind of cover the rest of the diagram. Potential retrogression is just their assumptions on how much further back the crack may exist. Again, that's just, you know, their observations. Will certainly keep a look at it, but it's at this point, it certainly doesn't seem like it's going to add a lot more. But we'll see. We'll definitely keep an eye on it, because I'm sure the drones and everything else it will be very easy to detect this, pick this up when it happens. We'll probably at this point around here start seeing shear fractures develop before this opens up. We'll probably see shear fractures going east-west. So certainly we'll take a look at it. Moving forward a little bit, let's just kind of take a look at our field observations to show possibly the accuracy of this as far as this slowness, deliberate approach to the slide. This picture was taken on the 16th. Just maybe pay particular attention in this exercise to these little off-color patches here, around here, even this little kind of stringer going down here. Again, this picture is on the 16th, and if we go to the 20th, we don't see any significant displacement here. Things, even that stringer is right in the same spot, essentially. No real displacement here, no real displacement here, which would suggest, as the report states, that this side, the west side being part of the ridge, yes, is in fact buttressing, holding up pretty much this slide at the moment. But we'll certainly continue to monitor this, because, quite frankly, this is all we have to monitor at this point. I don't think we're going to get access to the slide. Or inside the quarry, any of those aspects. Is Cindy going to trespass? I'm not sure. But we'll see. But that being said, certainly on the 30th, I see a buildup of, we're really looking at this area for two aspects. We were looking at this for a water aspect, and we were, as a picture I saw today, it wasn't obviously apparent, but just in the first passing, I just kind of felt that there was some kind of bulging going on in this general area right here. We'll see, but the appearance of all this little rockfall here leads me to believe that something's happening here, and we're gonna take a look at it. We're gonna keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens with that. But otherwise, I think everything else is pretty much covered in this particular, as far as the engineering approach to this. You can that just have recommendations, stuff like that, just to going forward, and but that pretty much concludes, I think, at least what everything I would like to discuss on this particular aspect, and we'll dive into more of them as we go on. But again, we thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon. Thank you.